Welcome to Joint Base Henderson Hall and this evening's performance of Twilight Tattoo. The host for this evening's Twilight Tattoo ceremony is the Commanding General of United States Army Pacific, General Bob Brown. On behalf of the Acting Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Robert Spear, and the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Mark Milley, General Brown welcomes you to this very special presentation of Twilight Tattoo as we celebrate the United States Army's 242nd birthday. This year, we also mark the 100th anniversary of America's entry into World War I. Known as the War to End All Wars, this conflict would propel the United States onto the world stage. And so tonight, we commemorate that moment and honor the United States Army's 100 years of global engagement and partnership.
Beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. Mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
The American Revolution was our 8-year-long struggle for independence. The conflict witnessed the birth of America's Army on 14 June 1775. Our nation's greatest generations are built on the strength of America's strongest citizens, our servicemen and women in uniform.
Assembly! To the front! Huh! Face ready! Take aim! Fire! Advance! Forward! To the front! Forward! Forward! Charge! Bayonet! Charge!
The origin of American military music can be traced to the fifers and drummers of the Revolutionary War. This musical heritage is represented today by the soldiers of the United States Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. These active duty musicians honor the soldiers of the past while displaying the discipline, professionalism, and precision of today's Army to audiences around the globe. The Army was again called upon to defend our national sovereignty in the War of 1812. In battles that raged from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico, American soldiers endured and persevered.
Make ready. Take aim. Fire.
In 1860, clouds of war gathered once again on the horizon. During 4 bloody years of civil war, brave soldiers from both sides of a divided nation fought and suffered. Over 600,000 Americans died in the war between the states as brother fought brother to determine the fate of the country.
I was there in the winter of '64 when we camped in the ice at Nashville's door. 300 miles our trail had led. We barely had time to bury our dead. When the Yankees charged and the colors fell, Overton Hill was a living hell. When we called retreat, it was almost dark. I died with a grape shot in my heart. Say a prayer for peace, for every fallen sun. Set my spirit free, let me lay down my gun. Sweet Mother Mary, I'm so tired, but I can't come home till the last shot's fired. They fought with courage on Danville's hill, surviving on little but water and will. They never lost courage, they never lost fight. Toward Appomattox they moved in the night, and the generals met to put an end to war. And brother found brother together once more. Say a prayer for peace, for every fallen sun. Set our spirits free, let us lay down our guns. Sweet Mother Mary, we're so tired, but we can't come home till the last shot's fired. Till the last shot's fired.
The peace achieved in April 1865 at Appomattox, Virginia, ended the conflict and allowed America and the Army to continue moving ever westward. American soldiers, among them African Americans known as Buffalo Soldiers, led the way.
Soldiering out here ain't easy. Scorching hot days, brutally cold nights, beef jerky and canteen water for the daily rations. But we all joined up for the chance at a better life and to serve our country. We're helping open up this great land. No matter how tough the conditions are, we're proud to be in the cavalry, proud of this uniform.
Then, in 1917, the Army was called upon to deploy massive formations overseas to defeat the armies of the German Kaiser in World War I. This year, we commemorate the centennial of America's entry into the war. We recall the vicious trench warfare that raged across the battlefields of Western Europe, where American soldiers stood side by side with our allies, bringing about a victory in what became known as the Great War. World War I has also been called the war to end all wars. Less than a generation after that conflict, the forces of tyranny and oppression again threatened our country and her allies in the Second World War. For 4 years, American soldiers and millions of men and women on the home front fought and worked together to decisively defeat the Axis powers around the globe. American soldiers stormed across the plains of Europe and assaulted island fortresses throughout the Pacific to stop the Japanese advance.
I spent 2 years in North Africa and Italy fighting the Nazis. I had seen enough of war, but I enjoyed being a soldier, and I stayed on when it was through. I was on peacekeeping duty in Japan when this Korean action kicked off. It was hard to believe we were in another hard fight so soon after the last one. And we've driven the communists back, fought hard with our allies to save this country.
Less than a decade after the end of hostilities in Korea, the Army was again called upon to confront our nation's enemies in Southeast Asia. The Vietnam War was our nation's longest conflict. More than 58,000 Americans lost their lives in Vietnam. 1,609 Americans remain unaccounted for and are never forgotten.
I'm on my third tour here in Vietnam. This is a tough fight in a whole lot of ways. I knew from the time I was a kid I was going to be in the Army, a career soldier, just like my dad. When I graduated the Special Forces course and my father put this green beret on me, I knew I was an expert in my profession. I was proud then, and I'm prouder now of what us soldiers are doing here in Nam.
I got my draft notice a year ago. I was stunned. I never dreamed of being in the Army. But before I knew it, I completed basic training and found myself lugging this machine gun through the jungle in some nasty heat and humidity. Our battles with the enemy are just brutal. But our troops are more than a match for the VC. I lost some good friends, but it's comforting to know we're not in this alone. No matter what happens, our buddies always have our backs.
Battle-tested soldiers and leaders emerged from Vietnam, determined to bring about change in our Army. They created a highly professional, all-volunteer Army that was superbly trained and expertly led. Throughout the last 2 decades of the 20th century, American soldiers conducted combat operations and humanitarian and peacekeeping missions in places like Grenada, Panama, Somalia, Haiti, and the Balkans.
I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. For 242 years, soldiers have served our nation during profound change and conflict. The one constant, our values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Values that will continue to inspire our soldiers for the next 242 years.
I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I do not do this because I have to. I do it because this nation needs me. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier, and we are Army strong.
You can bet that I stand ready when the wolf growls at the door. Hey, I'm solid. Hey, I'm steady. Hey, I'm true down to the core. And I will always do my duty, no matter what the price. I've counted up the cost. I know the sacrifice. I don't want to die for you, but if dying's asked of me, I'll bear that cross with honor. Freedom don't come freedom. An American soldier, an American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I'll proudly take a stand. When liberty is in jeopardy, I'll always do what's right. I'm out here on the front line, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier.
Today's soldiers, as well as yesterday's heroes, who proudly fought in the Revolutionary War and continued to serve in the hills of Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, Europe, and Korea. Today, the Army has more than 184,000 soldiers assigned or allocated to combatant commanders in over 140 countries around the world. Equipped and trained to execute any range of missions. This is done with the same trust, precision, discipline, and professionalism that the drill team displays with each rifle spin and coordinated move. These elite soldiers from the drill team will now display a series of dangerous and complex maneuvers. These experts have trained for years to become part of this daring routine, which involves complex timing and precise movements with zero room for error. This portion of the routine is extremely dangerous as soldiers throw their rifles inches from the drill master's face. These soldiers must throw and catch their rifles in perfect unison in order to avoid serious injury. Ladies and gentlemen, today the drill team is commanded by Captain Nathan Lease from Denver, Colorado. Over 200 years ago, our national anthem was born as Francis Scott Key observed our glorious flag continuing to fly over the ramparts at Fort McHenry.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you for coming out to help us honor the selfless service of American soldiers past and present.